I never thought my own flesh and blood could shatter me like this. One crisp autumn morning, the phone rang. My son Michael's voice, cold as the frost on my window pane. Mom, the wedding's next month. We're keeping it small. Sarah's parents, they deserve to be there more than you. Deserve? The word sliced through me like a dull knife. And then, weeks later, an envelope arrived in the mail, stiff and impersonal. Inside, a bill for $65,000, every penny I'd loaned him for his house down payment, his car, his fresh start. No note, no apology, just numbers on paper, demanding repayment from the woman who'd given him everything. How could he, after all I'd sacrificed? If you've ever loved someone who turned their back on you, stay with me. This is the story of how I lost my son and found myself again. The days blur together now in this quiet house on Elm Street, where the walls echo with memories I'd rather forget. I wake before dawn, the floorboards creaking under my bare feet, as I shuffle to the kitchen. The coffee pot gurgles, filling the air with that bitter, comforting aroma, dark roast, just like my late husband George used to brew. I sip it slowly, staring out at the garden where snow dusts the rose bushes like forgotten lace. Mornings like these, I fold laundry in the living room, the soft cotton of old shirts brushing my wrinkled hands. Each fold reminds me of the years I spent mending socks, ironing uniforms, packing lunches. Simple things, you know? The kind that build a life. I dust the mantle, pausing at the framed photos, Michael as a boy, grinning with chocolate-smeared cheeks. The silence is heavy now, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock George bought for our 25th anniversary. It chimes on the hour, a lonely sound in an empty home. I garden when the weather allows, my knees aching as I kneel in the damp earth, pulling weeds that seem to grow back overnight. The smell of soil clings to my fingers, earthy and alive, a reminder that some things endure. But lately, even these routines feel hollow, like I'm tending to a life that's no longer mine. Oh, how I remember the early days, when love flowed like a river, endless and pure. Michael was my only child, born after 2 heartbreaks that left me doubting I'd ever hold a baby in my arms. I was 32 then, young and fierce, working double shifts at the diner to pay for his diapers and formula. George drove trucks long haul, gone for days, so it was me who rocked Michael through colic nights, singing lullabies until my voice cracked. Twinkle, twinkle. I'd whisper, his tiny hand clutching my necklace, a silver locket with his baby photo inside. Sacrifice? It wasn't even a word back then, it was just love. I skipped vacations to save for his college fund, $20 here, $50 there, tucked into a jar under the sink. When he fell off his bike at 8, breaking his arm, I sat by his hospital bed all night, holding his hand while he slept. Mommy's here, I'd say, even as exhaustion burned my eyes. As he grew, I cheered at every soccer game, rain or shine, my umbrella flapping like a flag of devotion. And when George passed from that sudden heart attack 10 years ago, Michael was 35, already married to Sarah. I leaned on him then, but mostly I gave. I sold our vacation cabin to help with their wedding, $20,000 straight into flowers and that fancy venue. It's for your happiness, I told him, hugging him tight. But slowly the warmth faded. Sarah's influence, perhaps. Her parents were wealthy, always whispering about family priorities. Michael started calling less. Visits turned to texts. Busy, Mom. Tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. Tomorrow never came. It escalated so subtly at first, like a crack in a porcelain bowl that widens until it shatters. Sarah would visit, her eyes scanning my home like an appraiser. This place is so quaint, she'd say, her voice dripping honey over disdain. Michael nodded along, his once bright eyes dull. When I got sick last winter, pneumonia that kept me bedridden for weeks, he promised to come. I'll bring soup, Mom. But days passed, the phone silent. I lay there, coughing into tissues, the house cold because I couldn't afford to crank the heat. Finally a text. Sarah's folks are in town. Can't make it. Can't make it? To his own mother? The betrayal deepened with the wedding news. They'd eloped quietly, Or so he said, but photos surfaced on social media. Sarah's parents beaming, toasting champagne. They deserved it, he told me over the phone, his tone defensive. They've done so much for us. And what about me? The loans I'd given, $10,000 for their first home, $15,000 for his business venture that flopped, another $40,000 piecemeal over years for emergencies. Never a thank you, just expectations. Sarah's voice in the background, tell her we need the money back now. For the baby, they were expecting, and suddenly I was a bank, not a grandmother. The bill arrived like a slap, itemized, cold, with interest tacked on. Payable within 30 days, it read. My hands trembled as I held it, the paper crisp and unforgiving. How dare they? After I'd given my all, they reduced me to a debtor. That night, staring at the ceiling, the realization hit like a wave crashing over rocks. Enough. Enough of pouring my soul into a void. I wasn't angry anymore, just clear, like fog lifting at dawn. My heart, battered but wise, whispered truths I'd ignored too long. Love shouldn't beggar you. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're survival. I sat at my desk, the lamp casting shadows on the walls, and pulled out my will. With a steady hand, I crossed out Michael's name, replacing it with charities, ones for single mothers like I'd been. The pen scratched like a key turning in a lock, freeing me. Next, I called my lawyer, voice calm as I canceled the joint accounts, transferred the house deed solely to my name. No fanfare, no announcements. Just quiet actions, like pruning dead branches from a tree. I changed the locks that weekend, the new keys gleaming in my palm, symbols of control reclaimed. The necklace? I tucked it away in a drawer, its chain no longer a tether. For weeks, I lived in peace, gardening with renewed vigor, the flowers blooming brighter under my care. Then came the climax, inevitable as thunder after lightning. Michael pounded on the door one evening, his face flushed, Sarah trailing behind with their newborn bundled in her arms. Mom, open up. What the hell? The lawyer called. You're cutting me out? His voice boomed through the wood, laced with panic. I opened the door slowly, standing tall in my doorway, the house behind me warm and mine. You sent me a bill, I said simply, my words measured like footsteps on gravel. He sputtered, eyes wide. That was Sarah's idea. We need the money for the baby. Come on, you're family. Sarah chimed in, her tone wheedling. Eleanor, don't be dramatic. We deserve help after all we've been through. Deserve. That word again. I looked at them, feeling nothing but pity. You've taken enough, I replied, voice steady. The door's closed now. Go. He begged then, shifting blame. You always favored Dad. This is payback. But I shook my head, closing the door gently, the lock clicking with finality. Their voices faded as they left, the night swallowing their protests. Now, peace settles over me like a soft blanket. I sit by the window, watching the sunrise paint the sky in pinks and golds, waves of color washing away the gray. The garden thrives, flowers nodding in the breeze, as if whispering approval. An empty chair across from me at the table, no longer a void, but a space for my own company. I've rediscovered joy in small things, a good book, a walk by the ocean where waves crash eternally, reminding me that some forces can't be controlled. The folder of papers on my desk, my new will, my independence, sits like a sentinel, guarding my dignity. I've learned, you see, that love without respect is a chain, and letting go isn't loss, it's liberation. To anyone listening, remember this. Your worth isn't in what you give away. Set boundaries like roots in soil, deep, unyielding. Karma tends its own garden, and in time, peace blooms where pain once grew. I found mine. May you find yours.